Good evening, San Bernardino, and welcome to a wonderful new episode of Wake Up San Bernardino with me, Dr. Treasure Ortiz. I'm so excited. I hope you guys are having a great back to school day, first day of the new semester for students, new school year. So we're going to make sure that this pops on. Everybody has a chance to get on. We've got a good agenda. Nothing, I don't think anything super crazy. There are some good items that I saw that I think we should all be aware of and we should have a talk about. And then if you guys want to share this, so let's see, let me make sure we're up and running. Okay, here we go. It looks like we're live. Wonderful. Okay, so as always, you can jump in the comments. Hi, Scott. Welcome, and we're gonna get going. So, okay, let me share my screen with you guys. Okay, so we have the agenda for this coming Wednesday, August 2nd. Closed session starts at 5:30. And open session starts at 7 p.m. at the Fellham Library. This is notifying us right off the bat, if you see the yellow, that Councilman Reynoso will be participating via Zoom, and he will be located out of state. So if you're on Carroll Street in Waveland, you can sit and enjoy the show with Councilman Reynoso. So let's get to it. All right, so closed session. I want to reiterate this. Some people have been asking, okay, you can go and speak at closed session. All you have to do is address what is being itemized for closed session. So they're going to talk about the public employee appointment of this next city manager, right? They've got the applications, and if you want to make a public comment about that issue, you absolutely can, and you have 3 minutes to do it. That is completely separate from open session. So that's the only thing on there. I hope that they're just looking for really good candidates. I know there's just a lot of issues. Okay. At 7 p.m., the regular meeting starts. They're going to have the invocation, the Pledge of Allegiance, and then they're going to report out of closed session if they've taken any action or they've done anything. This is also where you can have public comments for anything that's on the agenda or not. So if you want to address something specific to what is going on Wednesday night, you can. If you want to talk about anything else, this is also the time you do it. They put all the comments together, okay? Then the city manager is going to provide his update. On the consent calendar, we have an amendment number 4 to professional service agreement with Advanced Pet Care. So they want to increase the annual contract amount to $350. This is where they were doing the spay, the neuter, and all of the vet stuff with the animal shelter that's been going on. They've been doing a great job over there trying to pull all the resources that they can. So that's coming back. They want to grant an easement to Southern California Edison across city property at 607 East Highland in Ward 2. So this means, what this just means in general is that Edison would have access through, that's what an easement is that you can cross over property with an agreement. Item number 3, approval amendment number 1 to grant agreement with California Volunteers and approve professional service agreement with the LOVE program and Operation New Hope for the Californians for All Youth Workforce Development Program. And it's recommended the mayor and council of San Bernardino authorize this interim city manager to execute the amendment. Provide a professional service agreement with Operation New Hope in the amount of $178,056 to create entry-level career pathways in the nonprofit sector for a period of August 3rd through May 1st of 2024. So this is pretty awesome. I'm excited. I think Russell Dugan is just and his team does amazing, and I couldn't be more proud. Workforce development is major, and youth workforce development of all things, making sure that our kids and our young people have opportunities for growth and development professionally is pretty amazing. Hi, Mike. Thank you for joining. Hi, Kathy. So I'm in favor of this. This will be great. Authorize the police department to increase approved staffing by 3 records. So as part of this workforce development, we're looking by increasing 3 records technicians, the human resources department to increase approved staffing by human resource analyst trainee, and the office of the city manager to increase staffing by 2 grants assistants. So in this workforce development, this is going to be some additional spaces of the city that other people can apply. Pretty cool. Number 4 is the investment portfolio for April and May of this year. Number 5, resolutions to approve the city investment policy. All you numbers people and crunchers of retirements, this is for you. Approval of the commercial and payroll disbursements. Item number 6. Number 7, accept the Inland SoCal Creative Corps grant in the amount of $100,000 from the California Arts Council. This is really exciting that the city took this opportunity. They got $100,000, so congrats to them. And I guess if you want to know more, like, you can always go in the backup material. This is just non-controversial things. Then they want to approve a second amendment agreement with, a second amendment agreement with our, I hit a button and I don't know what I hit. Oh, okay, hang on a sec. Clockwise, 90 degrees. I rotated pages. Let me figure out what it was I did. And it's gonna take a long time. I'm sorry. Okay, so while I'm looking at this sideways, there's a recommended mayor and council of San Bernardino for the additional amount of $47,300, which would make for a total amount of $459,000 for the final design of Nicholson Park. So as you guys remember, Nicholson Park received, Jesus Lord in heaven, received an $18 million investment to redo Nicholson. And so this is the money needed to complete the design process of that. So this is not going to go well, but this is pretty exciting, I think. I'm sorry, I have no idea how my page turned. So we're just going to be in this together right now. But for those on the west side in the 6th and the 3rd wards, this is a really big shift and a really great investment time. Nicholson Park has been neglected for decades on end, and so I'm excited to see this change for the better at that time. So yay to that. The next one on the agenda is, which I think is interesting, they're going to put no parking anytime signs restrictions on the northwest side of Marshall between Valencia Avenue and Pepper Tree Lane, on the west side of Pepper Tree Lane between Marshall Boulevard and Linwood Drive. So if you're going to be in those areas, you're not going to be able to park. There we go. We're right back where we started. Okay, my apologies. Yeah, so there you go. No parking anytime over by the golf course area and on Linwood Drive. Okay, they're going to award the construction grant for pavement rehabilitation at 3 locations in the 1st, 3rd, and 4th wards. So they want their agreement with Maddage in the amount of $763,593.55. Provide pavement rehabilitation to project zones. This is great, as we're always talking about making sure that we're doing our infrastructure and getting our streets completed. Number 11, formal acceptance of the Southern California Gas Company's application for franchise enactment of the resolution of intent to grant a gas franchise and approval of a license agreement. So if you want to know more about that, here's your chance. So now these are discussion items. So these are the items that the council will, they can talk about, they can pull anything on the consent calendar to have a question about, but this is where they will be able to ask any of their own questions. The American Rescue Plan Act funded entrepreneurial development services and resource center. So they're going to reallocate $873 of the ARPA funds from the Small Business Education and Training Resource allocation and move them into the Entrepreneurial Development Services and Resource Center, the ERC. So this is the thing they're talking about with Cal State. Okay, this is between Aspen, the Aspen Institute, Cal State, and creating a space for entrepreneurs and for the whole exact amount of $1.873 million. Okay, I want to talk about this for a minute because I think people need to understand. So there was in this discussion and coming out of the workshop, there was an article, and there are articles going around talking about how the council and the mayor have revised this downtown revitalization, downtown redevelopment. And this is I'm just gonna give you what I have of this. That's not true. Like, these are great projects, don't get me wrong. Having an entrepreneur center where people can come, I mean, that's exactly what Kim Carter did with the Bebop Center for Women. This is no different. This has the Women's Entrepreneur Center inside of it. This helps, again, the vendors, the taco vendors, and them try to become licensed and all that stuff. But I don't want anybody to forget the fact that our council just killed the downtown redevelopment of the mall, which was the largest portion of this revitalization. I feel like, and this is great, and I want to see it happen, and I like it, but let's not just forget that they killed the downtown redevelopment of the Carousel Mall project, which was speculated to bring over $300 million a year in taxes. That all of these projects in the playbook were built around the redevelopment of the mall area in conjunction with the transit center. So I feel like our community's being gaslit, so people don't feel like they got, screwed too hard by losing one of the greatest developments to come in 20 years. So I just want to make sure we understand that, in appreciation with what is still managing to make its way through. This is not at all what the plan was. This was all because of the plan that we had with RDICO. So yeah, to Scott's point, 3 years of money and work down the drain. Absolutely. And by God's good graces, are we even continuing this? Because Cal State already went to Temecula. Cal State already went to UCR. So this is like, all right, we're going to try this here if you can get your stuff together. So just be aware of that. I don't hear the truth coming out, and I don't hear people really talking to the community about what actually transpired. And there's very strong discussion of whether anybody thinks the city is going to be able to do this, really going to be able to pull this off. So I'm hoping with Cal State taking the lead that we're going to, my trust in them is far greater than what I've seen come through the Community and Economic Development Department. So that's item number 12. Number 13, proposed administrative policy establishing the municipal volunteer program, the MVP, for the elected officials. We're going to look at this. Somebody asked, so we will look. 470. Okay, municipal volunteer program. My computer is so touchy tonight. So let's get down to 70. Okay. It's recommended the mayor and council of San Bernardino review and consider the proposed administrative policy and provide direction for modifications or adoption as presented, establishing the municipal volunteer program. On April 19th, 2023, the mayor and council unanimously voted to have administrative policy establishing a volunteer program for the offices of the elected officials brought forward for consideration. The policy will outline the process for requesting, onboarding, and offboarding volunteers, including interns, in the offices of elected officials. Establishing the policy has no financial impact to the city. Okay, the city of San Bernardino is a charter city, their council manager form of government, blah, 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 blah. In addition to the city charter and municipal code, it's important for the city to implement policies and procedures that establish the controls needed to ensure that city employees and elected and appointed officials are able to operate under a clear set of guidelines. Yes, that's great. Okay. The municipal volunteer program is a perfect opportunity for the community to get involved in the civic activities. Volunteers are an important part of any organization, a valuable asset to the city. Totally agree. A volunteer is an individual, including an unpaid intern who performs a service for the city without promise, expectation, or receipt of compensation for services rendered. Accordingly, a policy establishing a uniform method for the management of city volunteers to ensure consistency is recommended. Okay, so here we go. To begin the recruitment process or request a volunteer position, a volunteer requisition form, a VRC, or VRF, sorry, will need to be submitted to the Human Resources Department. The volunteer form will be submitted and will list the duties and responsibilities assigned to the volunteer, the duration of the assignment, and the supervising employee responsible for the oversight of the volunteer, a background investigation. The volunteer may not begin their assignment without completing the required paperwork, including volunteer release from liability. Okay. Once the volunteer is clear for onboarding with the city, staff shall submit to Human Resources the volunteer access list, identifying the information technology, phone access levels, and all that good stuff. Each volunteer who is accepted to a position with the city must have a clearly identified supervisor who is a city employee responsible for direct management and oversight of the volunteer. The supervisor is responsible for scheduling the volunteer's hours while keeping the safety of the volunteer a top priority. Okay, here we go. Special considerations, as always. In order to ensure that the city is able to provide the necessary oversight and support for volunteers working with the offices of the mayor and city council, this policy established limits for the number of assigned volunteers supporting each of our elected officials. Under the MVP, Offices of Elected Officials policy, each council member will be limited to one volunteer at any given time. Given that the mayor serves in a full-time position under city charter, up to 2 volunteers can be assigned at one time to the office of a mayor. Additionally, in order to avoid any conflicts with the Political Reform Act and the use of city's facilities as resources for political purposes, a city volunteer working in an elected official's office cannot simultaneously work or volunteer on the elected official's campaign. So right off the bat, I think that's great. I do not believe, and we'll see, just my own assumption, that they will allow the mayor to have 2 when they get 1. I think everybody will either get 1 or 2. And I'm so glad that they put that you cannot work for an elected official as a volunteer and work for their campaign or volunteer for that campaign. I think because we saw that, right? We saw that with John using his campaign staffers and brought them on as interns and city employees. And Helen has done the same thing. She brought on her campaign helper and hired her on as her executive assistant. So we need to make sure there are no conflicts of interest. That's a really important thing. At the end of the assignment, the office of the mayor and council will notify the Human Resources Department of their duties. So I guess my question is, confidentially and non-disclosure, how long are they allowed to serve? Are you 1-year volunteers, 6-month volunteers, a year volunteer? Like, how long are they allowed to work for free? I think that would probably should be addressed. So, okay, there's that item. I just wanted to go over that a little bit more in depth. So, okay. Super fun. That'll be a good discussion. Okay, next discussion item, number 14. Oh, it's a public hearing. Okay, number 14 is the annexation of the Community Facilities District in Ward 2. And so if you live in Ward 2, this is for you. We're doing a lot of community facility districts, which I think is interesting because what in the last meeting, they were talking about how they're not really making money off of them. So I don't know. That might be, if you live in this area, something to talk about. They have another community facility district in Ward 6 that they're annexing for maintenance, levying special taxes. Okay, item 16, 2021 through 2029 draft housing element. So we talk a lot about housing in this community. We talk about how people need a place to live. And this is really where the meat and potatoes of this conversation is, because I think one, it's required. We have to build housing. And I think the notion behind who deserves housing and who should be able to live in a house has really become a skewed conversation that becomes quite crappy, to be honest with you. So we were talking the other day about, people are talking about, we want affordable housing. And what does that mean? What does that mean for someone to say, I want to live in affordable housing? So the true scope of what affordable housing means is that you personally live somewhere where you don't expend more than 30% of your income on your rent. That's what it means. That you are afforded the ability to spend no more than 30% of what you make, a third, almost a third of what you make on your house or your apartment. And people are like, no, I don't want affordable housing in my area. Well, you know what? If you bought a house prior to 2012, you're basically living in affordable housing today. I think it's really this whole notion that people don't want poor people living next to them or people who don't earn as much as they do. Honey, I'm sorry, if you're living in San Bernardino, like, and you got an issue with people who don't make a grip of money, like, move. I mean, what is your beef with the thought that someone who works hard should not be able to live next to you? Like, get over yourself. That's crazy to me. I mean, I have wonderful neighbors. We all work hard. We have all bought our homes, and that opportunity should be available to whomever wants it. Like, let's be for real. Y'all weren't buying homes 20 years ago in San Bernardino for $500,000 in the worst neighborhoods. Homes were going for $60,000 a decade ago. So calm down, like, just calm down. I can't have that conversation. If you want to have that conversation, go have it with somebody who doesn't want you in their neighborhood, because that's really what it comes down to. So when it comes to this housing effort, so everyone wants to build an ADU, but we'll have no parking for these people. Actually, Mike, the truth is people are not building ADUs. ADUs have not gone up by any extreme margin because they're unaffordable as well. The cost to build has risen by 3 times its cost. So I did a public records request. The permits pulled for ADUs are no more than they were 5-6 years ago. And parking is an issue. But if what's truly happening with ADUs is that the people who already parked their cars already live there. What we need to make sure that doesn't happen, and I think Mike and I have had this discussion, a few others, what I don't want to see, and this provision is big, I don't want to see, as people start to foreclose and lose their homes, that you have investors coming in and buying homes in single family neighborhoods and then putting 3 and 4 ADUs in the backyard and turning single family home neighborhoods into a bunch of residential properties that are now basically apartment buildings. Like, that's it. So that's the issue. If you have 2 ADUs on Broadmoor, those are probably one of the only ADUs in the city being built. Like, it's just not, it's not large. But if you have investors who own homes and they've been rental homes, this is what we need to be careful about. But it's always been there. The option for ADUs has always been available to us. It's nothing new. Now it's the state mandate. But look, we have to build 8,123 homes. This is our mandate. This is the state mandate of how many homes have to be built in the city of San Bernardino. 708 of them, 8.7% of them, will have to be available to extremely low income people who make no money, or 30% of the area median income. And our area median income is 42,000. Very low income is 31% to 50%. So people who are living in poverty, 25,000 or below. We have to build 1,000 low income, which means that you're making roughly 25,000 to 36. So one single person working full time is now extremely low income. Moderate income, we need 1,448, which is 81 to 100%, 120% of the median income. And now look, here's where the working average are the middle class. If you make above 120% above the area median income, remember the area median income is low, we need 4,000 of those units. So over 50% of the housing that is going to come to the city is market rate housing. That's it. And 17% of that, so what, 68, almost 70% of housing coming to San Bernardino will be market rate housing. That's it. So whatever the market dictates, that's what the housing is going to be. And that's roughly in some areas between 450 to, I think, high fives is where I'm seeing. So this is what they're going to talk about. Where they're going to put them, what they're going to do is going to be part of the bigger conversation. And well, it's not that they're not focusing on affordable housing. It's just saying, like, this is the mandate. Like, this is the allocation of how much of what type of housing we have to provide. And remember, the city got dinged by the state for not putting this together in time. And this is only remember, this is only till 2029. Then that's going to shift. So this is it right now, but it's something worth discussing. If this is something that you're passionate about, if this is something, like, if you want to talk about what ADUs are doing versus because remember, and I think ADUs is a great conversation, what does that mean in relation to everything that we're talking about? Is that considered housing? Is that going to meet the mandate? And this is a huge report. So we're looking at our projection of our population, our growth, what that's going to look like by 2030. Right now we're at 200, and they're talking about, roughly another 8,000 people moving here, and we're still going to be lax on housing. But we know it takes 5 years to develop, so it is right now. Yeah. Oh, look, we're behind. We are 100% behind. But let's be honest. I think what's interesting is we also don't have people who want affordable housing. We have a lot of elected officials who talk about the need, but they didn't even want to have the conversation about what 58% of renters are going through in our city. They didn't even want to talk about rent control and whatever that means, not which now is going to a state vote. But we have to be very aware that keeping people away from housing creates a different type of market value, and not in a good way for people. When 58% of your community rents, you're catering to landlords. You're not catering to your community to buy. That's what we need to do, is foster growth and home ownership. And there's so many programs and there's so many ways of doing that. What does it look like if we start converting these second home rentals into actual tangible home properties that we can purchase for lifelong? I don't know. It's a great conversation. I think it needs to be had, but yeah. We lost a big opportunity in the downtown redevelopment for affordable housing. And look, we've given up valuable property to build warehouses, places where people could have been living. Now we are storing Amazon goods. So if this touches your heart, if this conversation is big for you, then please, by all means, come down, speak on, I think, item 16, and share your thoughts and feelings with the mayor and council. And remember, we're rushing for this, right? This was it's 2023. This plan dates back 2021. We're rushing to get something done that we're already years behind. And as Rocio pointed out, we are already years and years and years behind, and we still do not have a general plan in place, which I think coincides with, let's not make sure that zoning is required, because we can still switch it out to build whatever we want. These mandates really shift the scope of what our city has been allowed to do. So that's a discussion for a later time. Number 17, imposing liens on certain parcels of real property for unpaid business registration taxes and penalties. So if you haven't paid your business registration taxes or penalties, they will put a lien on your house. So I would be aware of that and make sure that you are up to date for this. This really affects, if you do own a second home and you are renting it out, you have to have a business license, just so you know. That's a big thing. Okay, items to be considered for the future. We work together as an entire city and community to establish San Bernardino as pro housing destination and all America city wards. Councilman Alexander, that just makes no sense to me. It would have been great had Councilman Alexander just showed up to the council meeting when they were talking about housing and rent. So that would save a lot of time if you're just a part of the discussion the first time. And then Councilman Alexander, consider rent stabilization and other tenant protections. I hope he can sway his other council members to want to talk about it. As you guys remember, Sandra ran off, hid in the back room. Damon didn't show up. So if these things really matter to the community, it is time. It is time to absolutely talk about it. And look, it doesn't matter where you are, right? If you really agree with something, really disagree with something, there's a middle ground. I think we forget that there is an opportunity for everybody, for us to find a happy medium, because at the end of the day, right, all we want for ourselves is a better community, a stable life for ourselves and our families, and to be able to prosper. When I talk to the majority of residents, that's all they're asking for: safety, good economics, a better pathway to wherever they want to go. And so by being involved, being engaged, educating yourself, and empowering you and your community to move on these items, that's how you're going to bring about all these changes. So I want you guys to keep going over the agenda. There's more stuff in the backup material. I want to go super long for you guys, but if you have any questions, please put them in the chat, and keep going, San Bernardino. There's a lot of movement happening, some good and some bad. And if you want to make sure the good stuff keeps moving forward, keep promoting it. And if you want to make sure the bad stuff doesn't, then you call it out. And those are your two options. So I hope you guys have a great night, a happy rest of your week. Stay cool out there because it is yucky. So good night, San Bernardino. I will see you next time.